What is the most iconic moment in every Zelda game? With the exception of pulling the Master Sword out of its pedestal in Ocarina of Time, or stepping out into the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild, I think the answer has to be taking down the final boss. There's a reason beating a Zelda game feels so special, and it's the adventure aspect alongside the hero's journey. You always start a Zelda game as a weak nobody or a once legendary hero who had their strength robbed away from them. The plucky, independent spirit of Link is what drives you to keep going, but it's certainly not the chief reason. That would be the adventure every Zelda game takes you on. Journeying to Hyrule's farthest reaches, tallest peaks, and deepest dungeons, building each incarnation of the goddess's land into your mind. Against the insurmountable might of Ganon, the battle feels hopeless, but Zelda is the one franchise that makes getting stronger feel earned. Piece by piece, you earn the strength to stand up to your foe by overcoming the beasts in dungeons, gathering the blessings of sages, or constructing the Triforce. Zelda is cautious to never just hand you a powerful upgrade all at once. It always wants you to earn it gradually over the course of your quest. This is why Zelda splits heart pieces into 4. It wants to make the climb to Legendary Hero a slow and arduous one. It's all about the build. This is why Zelda games have some of the best pacing in the industry, Triforce pieces from Wind Waker excluded. The game always lays out how many items you need to beat the current arc. Usually 3 MacGuffins at the beginning, then 4 or 5 after that, followed by a final dungeon. I always love knowing how far through a game I am, and Zelda removes me from having to be spoiled by Google searching and just lets me know immediately. But the purpose of slow pacing, like in Zelda, is to give the biggest payoff imaginable at the end. Take One Piece, for example. Wano has been an absolute ordeal to get through, but with what we're seeing now, it's all worth it. And it's the same with Zelda games. The final boss is always the most satisfying and epic battle in every game. This includes Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. As the longest Zelda games to date, and arguably the most difficult depending on the order you chose to do the dungeons and how much you interacted with the shrines, this should make them the 2 best final bosses in Zelda history. Well, for Tears of the Kingdom it definitely could be, but for Breath of the Wild, there's not a chance in hell of it earning that title. But why? What's the main difference between these 2 boss fights? What makes one of them the most epic finale I could imagine to a Zelda game, and what makes the other one the biggest letdown of a final boss since Mass Effect 2? Well, like I said, Zelda is careful never to hand you a big power-up, but shaving half the health of the final boss is a pretty big advantage in your favour. Here's the thing, both these games have an express purpose, building up your strength for the final showdown. You can challenge Ganon at any time, but you should only do so when you believe you're ready. The game does an excellent job of hyping that battle up, showing the immense power of the Calamity when you're standing atop the Great Plateau Tower. So you want to be as prepared as possible for this battle, and when it finally comes time to fell the Calamity that has plagued the land for centuries, it's anticlimactic. I'm not saying it has to be hard, it's just not all that long. He's vulnerable to the same cheese strats you've been using for the entire game. He's big and slow, and it's not the legendary conflict it's hyped up to be. And Dark Beast Ganon is no different. Now, of course, slow-mo shooting that eye was an incredible experience, but again, it doesn't live up to the hype of previous Zelda bosses, or the expectation of quality the game has set for us. So then, how did Tears of the Kingdom's final boss not only outdo Breath of the Wild's, but completely overshadow it? Well, it's interesting actually. It's a traditional Zelda boss with a clear weakness. See, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are all about experimentation and doing things your own way, but applying this logic to the final showdown means that cheese strats can be used and it makes the battle trivial. Look at the final dungeon before each boss. Hyrule Castle can be entered from any direction, and you can take any path to the Sanctum. All that matters is that you reach Ganon. while Tears of the Kingdom gives us a linear cave with tough enemies you need to defeat to progress, much like a regular final dungeon. Ganondorf can only be defeated by engaging with him properly, using well-timed dodges and counters. The small size of the arena and the multiple opponents make it nearly impossible to spam him with arrows. Alongside Gloom removing your health permanently, the best way to prepare for this fight is to get as many hearts and sun meals as possible. It's a test of strength that you need to hone your skills and prepare for, because you can't just cheese your way through this fight. And because you overcame something of that skill level and the length it took to reach that point, the payoff of fighting the Demon Dragon is one of the most satisfying moments in the franchise. It's not all that hard, but it doesn't matter, because your blood is still rushing from overcoming the Demon King. So this euphoric battle in the heavens is the perfect release for all that tension. And then you defeat the final threat, and the end of your long journey is over, and it's a payoff worthy of the longest quest in Zelda history.